Hey there, hope everybody is doing well. I have another crummy quality video for you today, shooting in my home studio slash the office. So I have gone through the annotations that have come in so far for week 3. I've gotten through all of the checkpoints for week 2. I'm working my way through discussion posts, and I'm finishing up a few of your first journals. So sorry for the delays. Trying to prioritize and make sure that I've got people moving on with their writing assignments and that everybody is in good shape. So I know that some folks have some concerns about APA citation, and I've decided the best thing for me to do is to do a second video that will go over that a little bit more in depth. In your week 2 folder, there was an APA information section that talks about citing for APA. And I wanted to draw your attention to a couple of things. So I'm going to share the screen real quick. In theory, it's real quick to me. It's taking forever for y'all because you're like, when is this going to turn on? Okay. In the week 2 folder, and I'll go ahead and copy this to week 3, there's an APA information section, and I'm looking at the APA bibliographic citations. For this first writing assignment you're doing, you're going to be finding a scientific scholarly article. So you're going to be looking at a peer-reviewed scholarly article that is based in the sciences. Topic is up to you, okay? I did encourage you to just keep it on the shorter side because you are going to have to read it and report the information. So to show you what these citations are going to look like for the most part, you're going to have the author's name. Author's names in APA are listed last, comma, first initial. If you have multiple authors, you will list them all last, comma, first initial, up to, it's a pretty high number. Excuse me, I'm going to scroll up here. That's organization is not there. Here we go. Up to 20. That's what I thought. I wanted to make sure. Up to 20, you list all authors. You only do this in the reference entry, that bibliographic citation. So scrolling back down, then you have the year of publication in parentheses, the name of the article. So in APA, articles are written in sentence case, meaning you only capitalize the first word and any proper nouns. Then you'll have the name of the journal, which uses title case and is italicized, the volume, which is also italicized, followed by the issue number in parentheses, and then the page number. Typically, for your electronic articles, there will also be a DOI, which is a digital object identifier, and it looks like a URL. If you don't have a DOI, you will use the stable URL, okay? Don't just use a search one. If it's got all the search stuff in it, that's not a stable URL. On most of our database pages, you can access a link for that stable URL. So you do still use a hanging indent. There's otherwise nothing crazy outstanding with these citations. So I'll also go back to the folder and we will take a quick look at examples of in-text citations. As I mentioned last week, the year is incredibly important. Currency matters in APA. So your APA in-text citations will typically have the author's last name or names. If you have 2 authors, you'll use an ampersand, which is the and sign. If you shift and hit the number 7, that should give it to you. If you have more than 2 authors, you will use et al. You'll see that right down here. Okay. And you use the P period before the page number. So while MLA just used author's last name and page number with no punctuation, APA has more stuff. Now, just as with MLA, if you use the author's name in the sentence or author's names in the sentence, you will not need to use them in your in-text citation, okay? So always use the year, always use the page number if available. Now, if the author is an organization, you can use the abbreviation after you have introduced it. If you don't have an author, you can treat it just like you would in MLA. You can use the short title, or you can use the organization if that is appropriate. So just keep an eye out for that. So I will address further APA questions that come up in a separate video, because we know this can get long really quickly and I don't want that to happen. So for your science writing assignment, you are asked to, excuse me, allergies are getting to me, the pollen is rough this week. You are asked to find a scholarly article in the sciences. For part one, you're going to create an email to a writer. You're going to imagine that you're the editor for this publication. You're going to create an email to the writer. You're going to include that APA reference entry, that bibliographic citation, and you're going to quote from the article and provide an in-text citation. So you'll tell the writer what they should be, what article they should be working with and what they should be focusing on. So don't stress about format on this. I did ask you to imagine that it's an email. You don't have to go all out with making it look exactly like an email. Like, you don't have to screenshot Google or anything like, or Gmail or, excuse me, anything like that. I just want to see that content there. This is not a scary assignment. This is to make sure essentially that you have the correct kind of article and that you know how to cite it. So this is sort of me making sure you're on the right track, okay? So don't stress yourself out, but do it and get it done. So in talking about scholarly articles versus popular articles, this stuff exists on a continuum, right? We know there are scholarly articles that are easier to read than some other scholarly articles. We know there are super complex scholarly articles. We know there are news articles that are pretty reliable. We know there are news articles that don't provide as good of information, and then we know there's kind of clickbait trash on the internet. So there's this big continuum, right? And you can't say that, you know, necessarily one thing is going to always be reliable. And one of the problems that we find with science writing is that a lot of the information is hard to communicate, right? We don't all have degrees in all of these fields. We don't have all of the jargon and know-how and scientific background that some of these people have. And it's hard to strike a balance between having too much jargon and having the information be too complex, and oversimplifying the information and turning it into clickbait. We don't want that. And when I was putting this course together, and I may have mentioned this in last week's video, I talked to a scientist and said, hey, what do students need? He said they need to be able to read the stuff and talk about it to people who may not understand it. And so in your folder this week, I have 2 article sets in their own little folders. I'm actually going to pull those up now. I want you to take a look at them. You don't have to like get super in depth with reading them, but it's really easy to kind of look at these articles and see pretty quickly that things are different. So let me share my screen real quick. And also, to get at the point that I was making, I included this cartoon from Saturday Morning Breakfast Cereal, you know, where the reporter interviews the scientist and then takes one little thing and turns it completely on its head. Obviously not what the physicist was saying. They were kind of making a joke. And I'm not trying to be down on reporters. We have lots of wonderful journalists doing amazing science reporting. Ed Young does some great writing. And I've included the Open Notebook as a resource. If any of you are interested in science journalism, you can definitely see that there. See some good tips there. So this first article that I pull up is clearly a super scientific article. This one is complex. This one is so complex, my computer's struggling to open it up. There we go. So you can immediately look at this paper. You can see that we have a super complex title. We have a lot of authors. We have a lot of references. And we definitely have words in the very first sentence that I need to look up, okay? I recognize I've got some science folks in my class. Some of you are looking at this and going, this isn't that hard. To me, this one's pretty difficult. And then in the same folder, I have a link to a news article on the same topic. This news article is supposed to be about that article. And we see that this is very different, right? This is clearly clickbait. This is clearly junky, right? we see short sentences, we see tons of ads, we pretty immediately go, this doesn't look very credible. All right, so going back to our articles in this week's folder, there's the set on parrots. So there is this article about parrots voluntarily helping each other to obtain food rewards. Now, this still looks pretty scholarly, right? It's in a scholarly journal. We see that while there are some visuals, they're not quite as dry as the others. Got some fun diagrams here and some actual photos. We don't see ads. We see big paragraphs. We see a lot of statistics. We see a lot of citations. But I can actually read the first couple sentences of this without going to get my dictionary, okay? We'll also see that they are defining some words for us. They explain what reciprocity is, even though a lot of readers would already know that. So this is a scholarly article that's going to be a little bit easier for me to understand. So then I'm going to go to the news article, and I see that we've got a cute title that's designed to get attention. We've got a nice photo here, and we've got, while we have some sponsored ads, while we have some short paragraphs, this is not quite as clickbaity, and there's a lot more content here. So if we were plotting all these on the continuum, our first article would be, you know, on the super hard to read, super scholarly end of the spectrum. Then we would have the scholarly parrot article, then the NPR parrot article here, and then that Sun article based on the previous one, right? So even though these are, you know, we've got two scholarly articles, they're wildly different in how easy or difficult they are to read. And then with the news articles, very different quality of reporting and information. So just examples. This is not to indicate that, you know, there has never been anything great published in the Sun, or that NPR doesn't do, you know, more high-level reporting and lower-level reporting. These are just some examples here. So all that is to say, I acknowledge that scientific articles can be pretty complex and pretty hard to read. And so this week I did ask you to read that article from Mortimer Adler, that very old article that talks about really reading and understanding information, the importance of annotation, the importance of taking time to read actively and absorb that information. And I definitely want you to apply that this week. I've also included the fun article and the serious article about approaching scientific articles. Skim those. I mean, I understand that some of you can jump in on a scientific article and do what you need to do, but that some others of you may need some additional support. Also, if I can help you with critical reading strategies and active reading, I'm glad to do that. Work with students on that all the time. So pick an article that you're interested in. Pick something that is not crazy hard. We're in an 8-week class, so I would not go grab a 50-page article or try to read an entire textbook right now, okay? Please be reasonable about what it is that interests you. Now, even if you have an interest that's not immediately sciencey, that doesn't mean that there won't be a scientific article out there that relates to it. So if you're having trouble, please let the library know. We've got librarians who are super happy to help. Ms. Pruitt is a rock star at finding things and helping students find things. I'm also glad to help. Sometimes I read a lot of stuff late at night, so if there's something you're interested in, let me know and I may be able to turn something up. So the first step, find your article, read it, make sure you understand it, and then to complete part 1, which is that little email practice. I'm planning to turn those around as they come in, so I'll be checking on the Grade Center daily as I'm working through. If you need help or have questions, please let me know. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, I do have a copy of our textbook on reserve at the library, so if anybody's having trouble accessing that, it is on a 3-day reserve. If that doesn't work, you can make an appointment to come use my book during office hours, whatever you need to do. Really enjoying hearing from you all and reading your work. And let me know how I can help you. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. And I will be much more regular in my office presence next week. I've been on a bunch of hiring committees and our air conditioning went out and it's been tech problem after tech problem. So I will be actually at the office on Tuesday. So if any of you wanted to come in for office hours, I'll be there. I'm there lots of other times as well. So definitely let me know if you want to drop in. Have a great weekend. Take care, and I will be back with you soon.